Well, very good morning from a hot and dry Uruguay. I just got here 2 days ago after a extremely long flying adventure, and I'm going to try and relate that story to you now of what happened, and share some video along the way. Before we go anywhere, let's take a look at the map and see where the trip started from. So I was starting from Deming, New Mexico, and then I went to visit a friend in Tennessee, where I went and got my flight physical renewed. So before I go south, I wanted to have all my documents fully current. So anyway, without further ado, let's go and have a look at the video, the first section anyway, and what happened on the way. Well, we're in a very cold, wet, miserable Deming. Quite unusual weather. It was drizzling ever since I got there. I arrived the day before and just took the plane for a quick spin around the circuit to make sure it was all okay. We're now looking at our flight planning, and we've got a bit of rain at our departure, but the most important thing is we've got amazing tailwinds. So I'm planning on trying to make really good distance. So here we are, ready to go. Again, drizzly, horrible. Plane is fully loaded. We've emptied out the hangar we were renting, and I put as many of the most valuable tools and parts that I could. I left probably about more than $1,000 worth of gear behind. I just gave that to the mechanic who's been so helpful in getting this plane ready. A lot of work to make sure that everything was just perfect. As you see on the panel there, I replaced the satanic vacuum gyros with electronic gyros. I've had the vacuum system fail on me twice at the worst possible moment, each case. So by having two independent gyros, electronic, with battery backup, we've got a much better system there. Anyway, the plane is struggling. As I say, we're right on gross weight, taking off at altitude. And now we're passing El Paso, and you can see the weather is improving dramatically. And this is going to be the last of the desert we're going to see for a long, long time. I'm not sure if the aeroplane's ever going to come back up this way again, with the costs of flying across Brazil and Guyana. It just insanely expensive. Now this picture I always like. Take a look, 181 knots over the ground. We have a hurricane force wind behind us, 75 knots at least, which means there's a slight price to pay for that. Okay, this first leg we've done 600 miles, which is the longest we've ever done, but windy at altitude, it's still going to be windy on the ground, and so it's slightly tricky landing coming into Ardmore there, first fuel stop. This first day flying, I basically made it all the way to Memphis. I could have gone all the way to Knoxville if I wanted to, but the weather wasn't that good. Anyway, we're now taking off from Knoxville. I've just had a 3-day rest with some really good friends, and I have a current medical, so that's good for another 2 years. A lot of exercise regime with my friends. They're very fit and avid walkers, so we're walking like 6-7 miles a day, and all good fun. I love hiking through the forests. And the weather forecast today was absolutely abysmal for our flight to Florida. VFR not recommended, mountain obscuration, IFR conditions. I took a look at the sky, I took a look at the satellite image, and as you can see, there's nothing there. You can see the tops of the mountains. Not a problem. What are they complaining about? Okay, we're going over the Alcoa Highway and looking out over the Smoky Mountains National Park. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. I was hiking up in those mountains yesterday. And as you see, clouds well above the mountains. Easy conditions. So on we go to Florida. Again, we've got favorable winds. I'm just did about 450 miles and just topping up with fuel before I make the last little run to the Cape Canaveral. where I have some other friends waiting for me. Radio traffic was a little bit spicy here. There was skydiving operations going on and very congested. Okay, here we are flying parallel to the Space Coast. You can see the vertical assembly building off to the back there. And yeah, all very successful. And now the real leg of our trip begins. And here we are, open ocean, crossing the Gulf Stream with Grand Bahama Island. So I decided to stop here. Again, I was looking for tailwinds, and tomorrow there's supposed to be a really good tailwind window. Normally the winds are dead against you when you're flying to the east, but there's a little low off the Florida coast which is reversing the winds. So I'm planning to stay. I had planned to stay at a fairly inexpensive hotel, but the people on the ground would hear none of it. They made me book into an expensive resort. I must say I'm not too disappointed with that. Well rested, had a good meal, and clearing into the Bahamas is dead easy. I was cleared in within about 5 minutes. Really pleasant people, absolutely lovely. And so now let's just go cruising over the Bahamas on our next day. Let's advance the video a little bit. And there we are. The great blue waters and the reefs of the Bahamas. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful colours. You see Abaco Island in the distance there. You're never too far from land. Does get a little bit lonely occasionally. Ackland's Island below us. Beautiful, beautiful coloured reefs. And we're past the Bahama Banks, and now we're approaching the Dominican Republic, Puerto Plata. Another little overnight stop. There's a really good little resort town, Sosua, which is very close to the airport, and you can get a reasonable, inexpensive hotel, no problems. Found out that Uber works in Dominican Republic, and it's about a quarter of the price of the taxis, and the Uber vehicles are actually roadworthy, whereas the taxis are absolute disasters. So here we are, landing in Puerto Plata. There was some two Boeing 777s on the ramp, so a little bit of a squeeze to get past to the general aviation, but not a problem. And landed fairly short, taxi off, and the next day we have sitting in the plane waiting on an ATC hold. The tower was unable to communicate with Santo Domingo. I was just sat there for a quarter of an hour, and then I stormed off to the flight planning office to find out what was going on. Eventually they got it sorted, and I was in the air and flying over the verdant jungle of Hispaniola. My first stop was in Puerto Rico. I thought of clearing into Aguadilla. I never landed there before. Not the most pleasant experience. I went and declared my orange peel, which I had mandarin peel. I had mandarins on board, and I said, well, I have to declare them just like a good little boy. And they would have none of it. They wanted to fine me. I said, well, you can't fine me for declaring something. Anyway, we got it sorted, and no money was changing hands. Right, we're going to watch this next bit in full. This is a rather fun departure out of Isla Grande in Puerto Rico. You've got two airports quite close together. You've got the Marin International Airport about 3 miles off to my left. So we're talking to the tower of Marin immediately after takeoff, and the procedure here is to fly at or below 500 feet and just hug the coast. So at one point you're going parallel to the runway, and so if you stick at 500 feet, hopefully if there's a plane taking off on the parallel runway, you can duck underneath it. So yeah, it's quite an exciting little run. So let's just follow along as I weave along the coast. You've got the hotel complex of Condado off on the right hand side. Yeah, pity I left the sun visor down, but you should still be able to see. what's happening there. Yeah, and all very efficiently handled. Tower kept me on the frequency until I left the class Delta, and then Puerto Rico approach took over. I'm on my way to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. The fuel prices in Puerto Rico were like $3 a gallon over what they are in the Virgin Islands. What I found out in the Virgin Islands is that, okay, the fuel is cheap, but they hit you with handling and all sorts of stuff. So at the end, I might as well have started my trip out of Puerto Rico. Although I did have a very pleasant evening in the Virgin Islands. I stayed at a hotel right in the middle of town, had a fairly good meal, and then found out that the taxi is $50 for a 10-minute ride. They really have it, the whole thing wrapped up there, horrible. And so, not a brilliant move going to the VI, although it was fun. I enjoyed it, so that's the important thing. So we're now, I think they've handed us over to approach control, and I'm asking them to let me climb, so hopefully we'll be able to get above 500 feet in a moment. Here we are, St. Thomas on the final approach. I had to do a 360 on approach. There's another plane landing ahead of me, not a problem. This is quite an exciting airport if you're taking off in a jet. You see there's a hill at the end, so you want to make sure you're going to get airborne. I used the full length when I took off, did a short field takeoff, maximum angle of climb, and as you can see, I cleared the terrain nicely. There's the bay of Charlotte Amalie, full of yachts. And looking out towards the east, you can see St. John, and in the far distance, Tortola. Brings back many fond memories of living in Tortola for about 5 or 6 months. I had a really nice time there. So we cruise over the Caribbean islands. You're never too far away from land. You can always see something. I think we're going over Montserrat now. We're heading towards Guadeloupe, one of the French islands. Very, very civilized. They don't hit you for heavy fees or anything like that. Avgas prices have stayed pretty much the same, so now they're pretty much on par with Puerto Rico. I wish I could have stayed more. I did spend a week there last time I came through. I needed to wait for some documents to be sent to me. Now we're running the coast of Dominica. So the route is taking us quite close to the islands until we get to Martinique, and then I cut across. The direct course will take us far offshore, so I think it's prudent just to remain fairly close to the island chain. Just sitting on the autopilot, all doing well. Now we can see the St. Vincent coming in. I did a slightly longer offshore leg but we were still within sniffing distance. And there ahead is Point Salines, Grenada, and we'll be stopping the night there. There's quite a good hotel, which I can. Which is walking distance. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the next leg of the trip. So there was our trip from the US side. So there we went to Knoxville, then down to Florida, and then across to the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and then on to Grenada. Now the next leg of the trip is going to be a little bit more interesting. Now we enter what I call crocodile country, where you need to fill your wallet full of crocodile food because they are very, very hungry. So we have an offshore leg, not that far, but from Trinidad, we take off from Grenada, overfly Trinidad, and then direct to Georgetown, Guyana. We have the Venezuelan coast there, which is not a friendly coast. And then hopefully we're going to do a quick turnaround and on our way to Boa Vista in Brazil. So that we want to be in Brazil today. Okay, let's carry on with the video and let's see where we go. Now, very different weather. Once we leave the coast of Trinidad, we are approaching the intertropical convergence. We have towering cumulus, pretty much all quadrants. And here we are making our approach into Guyana. And I think what we'll do is I've skipped. We have no video of what happened from Guyana to Brazil. Let's just say it was challenging conditions, and we'll leave it at that. We're now approaching Boa Vista, fairly uneventful. The start of the Amazon. So we have some high ground just outside Boa Vista. And then this is the northern limit of the Amazon basin, which, unless you've flown it in a small aircraft, you just got to imagine this endless green. There is just nothing at all out there. So here is the last vestige of civilization. We will be out of radio contact soon at this altitude. No one will hear us. I do have 2 emergency locator beacons and a satellite phone, but I'm not sure that they do any good. Watching the oil pressure, it's looking good. No evidence of any oil on the windshield, so I can't smell oil. That I could smell oil before, so it's looking like the seal is good. And there you are, as far as the eye can see, all around jungle, nothing else. No airstrips. Nowhere to put down in an emergency. Now as we're getting closer to Manaus, there was a dam built there, so an area flooded. Again, if you had to put down an emergency, there's just little dead tree trunks poking out of the water. So there's a toss-up of whether you put down in the jungle or put down on the water. Either option is not good. And we're right outside Manaus now. We're about 10 minutes from landing and still intense jungle. Now, the international airport, I was told, does not offer fuel, so I went to the Amazonas Flying Club, which is a short runway. This was one runway which I was a little bit concerned about with my load. I'm fully loaded. The plane does operate within the parameters, but again, I was hoping there's going to be no towers at one end of the runway, so let's see how we go. We're just at 800 feet now above the treetops. To the right, you can't see it, is the city of Manaus. Now we're over Manaus proper. We're being vectored towards the airport. You talk to the approach controller the whole time until you're right at the airport. You can just see the airport up ahead. I'm going to make a downwind entry and land. I did this on the on the Microsoft Flight Simulator, just to see what it was like. And actually, the visualization is pretty good. You see the stadium up ahead, good landmark, and that's on Flight Simulator as well. So in effect, I'd already done this landing before. Very tight maneuvering because you've got the international airport like 4 miles just to the north, and there, short field landing. Oh, there we are. On the numbers almost. That's just how we want to do it. And we go off, get fuel. Brazilian fuel, aviation fuel, is appallingly priced. You're paying upwards $16, $17 a gallon in some places. You just don't want to think about it. So let's go back to the map and just take a look and see where we are and where we've been. So there's Boa Vista. That's the first of the Amazon basin legs, which takes us to Manaus, which is actually on the Amazon. So we have another 2 days before we get out of the Amazon basin proper. So today we're flying to Itatuba. I was going to fly down to where the Alta Floresta, which is the more direct route. However, rule number 1, check the NOTAMs. They just put a new NOTAM out, avgas unavailable. If I got there with no avgas, I am hosed. I'm in the middle of nowhere. So Itatuba, there's another spot here, Sao Felix, which should have avgas. We were unable to call anybody to see, so I had another alternate just further on. So anyway, let's continue on to Itatuba. And so now we're following the Amazon for a little bit, and then we're going to divert a little bit south to one of the tributaries. Itatuba, you land there, and it's like you're in a different universe. It's a built-up town. You don't see a tree anywhere. And I'm staying at a very nice hotel, 1 block from the waterfront. A nice little waterfront cafe there, which is a floating cafe, which was the hotspot in town. So there we are, approaching Itatuba. And then the next day, we were flying to Sao Felix. This is the area which I was wondering whether they had avgas or not. There was Brazil, AIPs, didn't say anything about fuel. AccuQuick said that fuel was available, and I called on the VHF. Yes, we have fuel, and so enter the downwind, base to final, and fuel up. $15 a gallon here, not good. Anyway, disaster struck at this airport because the flight planning system I've been using in Brazil, it's very hit and miss. Sometimes you have to beg a pilot to help you file a flight plan. This time, it just plain didn't work. It just said my permit to fly was invalid and wouldn't file the flight plan. So I flew what they call Libre Frequencia. I'm out of controlled airspace. I'm going from one uncontrolled airport to another. I'm flying below radar coverage, so that's fine. We just flew the next few legs without. I tried to file a flight plan through 3 different methods. Every time they got rejected, and so the last time we did it, I was flying into controlled airspace. Here we are coming into Morelia, which is in the Bairu terminal maneuvering area. And there you have to file a flight plan. So there was a Phenom jet on the ramp, and 2 very nice pilots helped me file a flight plan. And by the next day, the whole system had started working again. So my last day flying in Brazil, which follows this landing, everything was good. So here we are, landing at lovely town Morelia. There's an Ibis hotel, just like any other Ibis hotel with decor, and everything was, and it was fine. All right, let's go and take a look at the map again. And so where are we? We're about here. We got a. So our last leg is. Where are we? Morelia, then down to Passo Fundo, and then from Passo Fundo down to Barge. That's the border town. We'll see what happened when we got to Barge. Let's go back to the video. We're taking off from Morelia, and it is, you have all this green, verdant countryside, and then suddenly you just get this sprawling mass popping out of nowhere. Huge cities in Brazil. Where I was at the Ibis, it had huge shopping centres, appliance stores. Could have been in London. And so now we're Rio Grande do Sul, which is the breadbasket of Brazil. That's where a lot of the agricultural produce comes from. A lot of thunderstorms popping up all around, so I was manoeuvring around them. So here I am, stuck between a thunderstorm and controlled airspace, which I'm trying to avoid. These things you do not fly through. They are very, very dangerous. We're now at outside the tropics, and here we are approaching Vargem. Now, what happened in Vargem? You have to. There's a 24-hour cooling off period, not negotiable for customs. They won't come any sooner. It's a machine. There's no humans involved, and so I landed here at 4 o'clock. I couldn't take off next day until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In fact, it was more like 5:30 by the time they'd finished with all their messing around, and we'd had the officials in Uruguay staying by all day. Fortunately, Uruguay is flexible. If it was like that in if like that in Uruguay, it wouldn't work. Anyway, cleared into Uruguay. I had to spend a night in Melo, and this is really the culmination of the trip now. I'm about to land at the grass strip where we built this hangar. It's been a 3-year project to bring this thing to fruition, and there is the familiar landmarks. I'm just doing a circuit of the grass runway now to make sure that everything's okay. Some friends of the flying club, they mowed the grass yesterday, so the runway's been checked. It's all good. Windsock, I'm going to make a slightly downwind crosswind landing because I want to land on the uphill section. It's much easier that way. You've got if I landed into the wind, I'd have to negotiate some trees at the end of the runway, and it would be sloping downhill, so uphill works. I did post a video of this landing on Microsoft Flight Simulator, and the whole thing looks very, very similar. So there we have the San Francisco Bay, and up ahead you can see the little grass strip. It's 1,900 feet. It's a bit longer than the chicken strip, but still, you have to get this spot on. Following up the Calle de los Eucaliptus, and there's a good there's a road which is almost an extension of the runway, so nothing built on there. And then there's a low house just to the left, so we want to avoid taking the roof tiles off that one if we can. At the same time, we want to make a fairly decisive landing within the first quarter of the strip. And there we are. Pull the power, no messing around, set her down hard, and just let her roll out. My hangar's at the end of the runway there. And there we have it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that voyage. There is the plane in her snug little hangar. Very happy to be there. And that brings us to the end of this broadcast. Thank you all for watching, and keep tuned to this channel for more adventures coming up in South America.